I was flipping through channels the other night and stopped on one of those late-night talk shows, the kind that used to be the background noise of American relaxation. I remember a time not that long ago when the biggest controversy on these stages was David Letterman hurling a watermelon off a skyscraper just to see it burst, or Jimmy Fallon messing up Donald Trump's hair in a moment of genuine, albeit silly, levity. There was a certain twinkle in the eye back then. The humor felt like a playful jab between friends at a bar, keeping things light enough to help us drift off after the 10 o'clock news. But as I watched the monologue unfold, the atmosphere felt different. The host wasn't cracking jokes. He was delivering a sermon. His face wasn't lit with the mischievous grin of a comedian, but with the strained, righteous indignation of a political commentator. He wasn't looking for a laugh. He was looking for a gotcha moment. It felt less like a comedy club and more like a lecture hall where the professor is visibly frustrated that you haven't memorized the syllabus. The most striking part wasn't the content itself, but the reaction, or lack thereof. You could hear the audience laughing, but it sounded forced, like they were checking off boxes of agreement rather than being genuinely surprised by a punchline. It was a transformation from absurdist fun to bitter commentary. This shift has created a strange paradox. While these hosts double down on their scorched earth monologues, the very people they used to entertain are quietly exiting the room. The average viewer of these shows is now pushing 60, while an entire generation, Gen Z, has migrated entirely. They aren't looking for a lecture at midnight. They're looking for the high-stakes absurdity of a Mr. Beast challenge or the unfiltered snark of a YouTube reaction video. It raises a haunting question for the future of the format. When did our late-night comedians turn into bitter old men? And is there anyone left under 40 still listening to the sermon?
That is a haunting question. And, listening to you read that, the part that really jumps out is the sound. The sound of that room.
The forced laughter.
Right, but there's actually a better, more specific term for it. A bit of industry jargon.
Really? There's a technical term for bad laughter.
There is. Tina Fey, of all people, came up with it. She calls it Clapter.
Clapter. C-L-A-P-T-E-R.
Actually, clapping plus laughter. But it's fundamentally different. Think about what a real laugh is. It's a physiological reaction, voluntary.
It's a surprise.
Yeah.
Your body reacts before your brain even gets there.
It's a spasm. Your brain gets twisted by a punchline you didn't see coming, and boom, you laugh. Clapter, though. Clapter is a cognitive process. It's a choice.
It's the audience thinking, that was a good point. I shall make a noise now.
It's an auditory signal of agreement. It's them saying, I'm on your team. I agree with your politics. I recognize the target of that joke as a bad person, and so I will make this noise to show my solidarity.
It's applause wearing a comedy mask.
And once you learn to hear it, you can't unhear it. It's everywhere. You can turn on any of these shows tonight, close your eyes during the monologue, and just listen. You'll hear the whoops, the cheers, but you won't hear that deep, guttural, surprised laughter that you got from, a Carson or a Letterman.
It's interesting you bring up Letterman. I do want to push back on the golden age idea just a little bit. I mean, we can get nostalgic, but he wasn't some gentle soul. He could be mean. He was cynical.
Absolutely. Prickly.
Very prickly.
Yeah.
So is the difference really that big between his kind of cynicism and what we're seeing now with, say, Colbert? Or are we just remembering the watermelon and forgetting the rest?
And yes, Letterman was cynical, but I think the difference is in the target. Yeah. And the function. Letterman and even Leno with his jaywalking segments, they were operating in the archetype of the jester.
The core jester.
Right. And what's the jester's job? It's not to lead a political faction. It's to speak truth to power by mocking everyone. The jester makes fun of the king, but also the bishop and the peasant. The jester's core belief is that the whole world is absurd and power is ridiculous.
And what's the new archetype?
The moral authority. The new host isn't the jester anymore. They're the bishop. They're not there to point out the absurdity of the system. They're there to lecture you on its failings from a very specific moral high ground.
The shift from isn't this silly to isn't this wrong?
Exactly. And that shift is everything. One invites you in, the other preaches at you, and frankly, who wants a sermon at 11:30 at night?
Right. You're exhausted. The last thing you want is homework. But it feels too simple to just say, the host got political. There has to be something deeper driving this, right? Yeah. The whole industry moved in lockstep.
Absolutely. This isn't an accident. This is a business model. And to really get our heads around it, we have to look at this from 3 different angles. The economic incentives, the sociological cost, and the psychology of the hosts themselves.
Funny. I want to tell you a story that kind of crystallizes this. It's about a veteran comedy writer, Arthur. He's been in the game since the 90s. He knows how to build a joke.
A craftsman.
A total craftsman. So picture it's a writer's room, maybe 2018, 2019. It smells like, desperation and stale coffee.
Perfectly.
And Arthur pitches a joke for the monologue. It's classic observational humor. It's about his new smart fridge.
Oh, I hate my smart fridge. It's the dumbest smart thing I own.
It's the universal experience. The joke is about how the fridge keeps sending him push notifications that he's low on oat milk, and it's judging his late-night snacking. It's non-political. It's relatable.
A perfect mass market bit. Anyone can get that.
But the executive producer shoots it down.
And not because it's not funny.
No. The EP doesn't say that's not funny. He points to a screen on the wall, a dashboard.
The analytics. The real-time demographic data. And that data tells a very, very specific story. The audience for linear television at 11:30 p.m. is not the whole country anymore. The 20-somethings are on YouTube. The 30-somethings are binge-watching a streaming series.
So who's left?
The data says the average viewer is, let's say, a 54-year-old in a high-income zip code. Elite.
The Upper East Side demographic, as the outline calls it.
That's the one. And what the data shows is that this person, who's probably been watching cable news right before this, is anxious. They are politically activated. They don't want a whimsical joke about a smart fridge. The producer literally says to Arthur, they don't want whimsy, they want heat.
Heat. What a term. So ideological red meat.
It has to validate their worldview. It has to attack the correct enemy. So Arthur, being a professional, sighs, crumples up the fridge joke, and writes a sharp, angry line about a C-SPAN hearing on agricultural subsidies that happened that afternoon.
A joke that maybe 5% of the country would even understand.
But it's the right 5%. And when the host delivers that line, what does the audience do? They don't have that belly laugh. They cheer. They applaud.
Clapter.
And that is the incentive trap.
So what we're seeing is a phenomenon called commercial decay. Is that right?
In the old days, the Leno and Carson days, the business strategy was what you could call a broad church. You needed everyone. The farmer in Nebraska, the lawyer in Boston. The jokes had to be broad enough to land with both.
You couldn't afford to alienate half your potential audience.
But now, because of audience fragmentation, the farmer is gone. They're not watching. So the strategy shifts from being a broad church to a boutique, a high-end niche boutique that caters to one very specific, very wealthy customer.
And the advertisers are right there with them.
The advertisers are driving the train. If you're selling a $60,000 electric car or a new prescription drug for a specific ailment, you don't care about the farmer in Nebraska. You want your ad running next to content that makes your target consumer in Boston feel smart, validated, and safe.
You're not paying for a jester anymore. You're paying for a brand safety officer.
Perfect, a brand safety officer. The host's job is no longer to make everyone laugh. It's to reassure a specific demographic that they are the good guys and that buying this car is what the good guys do.
So the echo chamber we all talk about online, it's not just a social media thing. It's an active business model for legacy media.
It's a premium monetizable product. It is literally more profitable now to be divisive and cater to a niche than it is to be broad and unifying. If a host tried to go back to the watermelon off the roof style today, the model would collapse, the diehards would leave, and the young people wouldn't come back anyway. They're trapped.
That is structurally bleak. I mean, it removes all agency. It's just the machine doing what it does. But let's move from the machine to the human cost.
Yeah.
What does this do to us, the viewers?
This is the sociological piece of the puzzle. And it's maybe even more disturbing than the economic part.
I want to tell you about a guy we'll call Elias. He posted this story in an online forum, and it was really sad. He talked about his family's Sunday night ritual.
Okay.
His family is big, loud, and all over the map politically. He's got the uncle in the Meiji hat, the niece who's a progressive activist, a dad who's a swing voter, a real cross-section of America.
The classic Thanksgiving dinner nightmare scenario.
Exactly. But for decades, he said, they had this one piece of common ground. On Sunday nights, they would all gather in the living room and watch a supercut of the best late-night clips from the week.
The old electronic hearth, bringing everyone together.
Right. And Elias used this fantastic term. He called it their social viscosity.
Viscosity. Wow, that's a powerful word choice.
Explain that from a sociological perspective.
Well, think about viscosity literally. It's the thickness of a fluid, like oil. In an engine, you have all these different metal parts moving at high speeds, grinding against each other. Without oil, the friction creates so much heat that the engine seizes and destroys itself.
So the oil is the lubricant.
It's the lubricant that allows different, hard, unyielding parts to function together without shattering. In society, that lubricant is shared culture. It's shared humor.
So when Elias's family is all laughing together at a dumb Jay Leno jaywalking segment.
That laughter is the oil. It's a subconscious signal that says, okay, we disagree on taxes and foreign policy. We're different parts of the engine. But we exist in a shared reality where we all agree that this guy, not knowing who the vice president is funny. That shared reality is the absolute bedrock of a functioning society.
And what happened to Elias's family?
Well, you can probably guess. He said around 2019, 2020, the ritual it died. They'd put on the clips, and instead of a joke about a smart fridge, the host would launch into a 10-minute, unblinking sermon about how anyone who voted a certain way was a bad person.
And the oil just drains out of the engine.
He said you could feel the room get cold. The Magi uncle would physically cross his arms, get stiff, stare at the TV in angry silence. The progressive niece would get this little smirk on her face, this I told you so energy, and she'd glance over at her uncle.
The TV wasn't a campfire anymore. It was an arsenal. It was handing them weapons to use against each other right there in the living room.
It weaponized the space. And this is a perfect small-scale example of what the sociologist Emil Durkheim called anomie.
Anomie, right.
Exactly. Durkheim described it as the breakdown of social bonds that connect an individual to the community. Think of it like a four-way intersection. If the traffic lights are working, we all agree on the norms. Stop on red, go on green. We might be in different cars, going to different places, but we share the rules. The system works.
But the new late night is like the traffic light turning green for one side of the intersection and red for the other, and just staying that way.
It's even worse. It's like the traffic light starts yelling that the people driving east are virtuous heroes and the people driving west are deplorable villains. It doesn't just create chaos, it atomizes the society.
Atomizes, meaning it breaks it down into individual hostile atoms.
Everyone retreats into their own vehicle. The family unit shatters. Elias said that's what happened. They just stopped watching together. The uncle went to his den to watch his channel. The niece went to her laptop to watch her creators. The living room, their shared space, was abandoned. It was paved over to build a pulpit.
And if a family can't even share a living room, how can a country share a democracy?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar question. And it's the tragedy here. These hosts, in their minds, are on a moral crusade to save the country. But by destroying the social viscosity, the very lubricant of shared laughter, they might be accelerating the very breakdown they claim to be fighting against.
It's a devastating feedback loop. Okay, so we have the economic incentive trap with Arthur. We have the sociological breakdown with Elias's family. There's a third piece, though, ecology. Because not everyone fits neatly into one of those political camps.
The rationalist,
Yeah.
the politically homeless.
Exactly. Let's talk about Elena. She's a data scientist, smart, very analytical. She doesn't have a team jersey. She's just trying to figure things out.
She's an independent thinker.
Right. And she told this story about tuning into one of these shows a few weeks ago. She'd had a long day. She was tired of the constant political noise. She just wanted, stupid, funny joke.
A moment of levity, an escape.
Right. And what she got instead was what she called a hero host log. The host spent the first 12 minutes of the show not telling jokes, but recounting his own bravery for sending a tweet to a politician.
Wow.
He talked about his own moral clarity, his own struggle. Elena said her overwhelming feeling was that she had accidentally stumbled into a private party, like a fancy dinner in Brentwood, where the host stood up to give a toast to himself.
That is such a sharp observation, and it plugs directly into the work of the historian Christopher Lasch and his book, The Culture of Narcissism.
Okay, Lasch is pretty dense. How does that apply to a late-night comedian?
Lasch argued that as a culture declines, the standards of merit are replaced by what he called elite signaling. In comedy, the old meritocratic standard is brutally simple. Is it funny? Does it kill? That's all that matters to a true jester.
But for the narcissist, the standard is different.
For the narcissist, or the moral authority, the question changes from, is it funny, to, does this performance demonstrate that I am a good person? It's not about the audience anymore. It's about signaling virtue to a small group of peers, other celebrities, critics, the people at that Brentwood dinner party.
So the audience at home, Elena, the data scientist, she's not the customer anymore. She's just a prop.
She's the congregation. When the host gets that very serious, folks, I'm not joking tonight, look on his face, he's not entertaining Elena, he's trying to instruct her. It's that lecture hall dynamic again. He's the professor, and she is the student who just isn't getting it.
And of course, as a rational adult, she's insulted by that.
She's repelled by it. This is what's called the betrayal of the rationalist. Elena values nuance, objectivity, and wit. When the host abandons all of that to become a one-sided advocate, he's effectively evicting her from the space. She realizes, this isn't for the country. This isn't even for me. This is for him.
The focus shifts from the absurdity of the world to the sanctity of the self.
That's the definition of narcissism right there.
We've used these archetypes, but these are real people with real shows. We have to talk about the bitter old men themselves. And just to be clear, this isn't about their chronological age. It's about a spiritual exhaustion.
A bitterness.
A metamorphosis.
I start with the most dramatic one for me. Stephen Colbert. I was a huge fan of the Colbert Report. That character he played, the right-wing pundit, was one of the most brilliant satirical creations of our time.
It was genius. It was high-status satire. He coined truthiness. He could sit there in character and mock a guest's entire worldview to their face, and they laugh along because there was this playful buffer of the character.
But on The Late Show, the character is gone, and what's left is just Stephen.
And Stephen, it seems, is very, very angry. The playfulness is gone. The buffer is gone. What you get now are these incredibly intense monologues that the sources describe as scorching sermons or angry op-eds set to a laugh track.
There's no irony left. None. He tears into political figures with a sincerity and a rage that feels, well, it doesn't feel like comedy. His audience is the oldest in late night, the average age of 61. He is quite literally preaching to the converted.
Then you get Jimmy Kimmel. His transformation is maybe the most baffling. I mean, this is the guy from The Man Show.
The frat boy of late night. Girls on trampolines, unnecessary censorship, beer jokes. He was the embodiment of the American id.
And now he's the national superego, the preacher.
Yeah.
He's known for these tearful, emotional monologues on policy issues.
The pivot to sanctimonious disappointment, as one source put it. And the bubble he's built around his show is, it's statistically staggering. You brought up a stat earlier about his guest list.
I did, and I want you to say it again because it sounds unbelievable. You looked at his show from 2023 to 2025. 2 full years.
Right, it comes out to 1,363 guest interviews.
Okay. Actors, musicians, athletes, a few politicians. Out of over 1,300 guests, how many were identifiable, openly conservative political figures or commentators?
One.
One, as in the number after zero.
The number after zero. Mike Lindell, the My Pillow guy. And even he was reportedly told not to talk politics.
That's not an accident. That is a deliberate curatorial choice.
It's a statement. It's the show telling its audience and the rest of the country, the other side does not exist in our world. They are not worth hearing from. They have nothing of value to add. How can you be a national town square when you've barred the doors to half the town?
Okay, thanks. Seth Meyers.
Meyers is a different flavor of the same dish. He's not the angry preacher like Colbert or the tearful scold like Kimmel. He's the wonk, the smart kid in class who did all the reading.
He's a closer look segments.
Right. They're described as data-heavy diatribes. It's homework. He's explaining policy and quoting reports. It's impressive, but it's not exactly hilarious. It's that wonky wrath. The humor is secondary to the lesson plan.
Which leaves Jimmy Fallon.
Fallon. He's the tragic figure in all of this.
Tragic. He seems like the happiest guy in the world.
Look closer. Fallon is the only one left who genuinely seems to want to be a jester. He wants to play games and be silly and do lip sync battles. He wants to mess up Donald Trump's hair, not deliver a sermon about him.
But the system, the incentive trap, won't let him.
It won't let him. He's forced to pay this political tax. He has to do these awkward, soft, anti-Trump jokes to prove to the network, the advertisers, and the studio audience that he's on the right team.
Okay, I'll do my 2 minutes on the bad orange man, and then can I please play Pictionary with Zendaya?
That's exactly the energy, and the result is this watered-down cocktail nobody ordered. The political junkies find him too frivolous, and the people who want fun find his political stuff cringeworthy. He ends up pleasing nobody.
This whole dynamic, this bubble, it creates this huge disconnect. There's this idea of the vernacular nation versus the elite establishment.
This is a really useful framework. The vernacular nation is the world of everyday life. It's the language of place, of community. It's people in a diner talking about gas prices or their kids' school. It's grounded in tangible reality.
And the elite establishment.
They speak a different language. It's a language of abstraction, of systems, of credentials. They talk about geopolitical norms, institutional integrity, macroeconomic forces.
So the vernacular person says a loaf of bread costs $7. And the elite host responds with a 10-minute explanation of global supply chain disruptions.
And not just an explanation, but one tinged with a sort of disdain. There's a view in this world that populism, which is really just the expression of the vernacular, isn't a valid democratic impulse. It's a disease to be cured. You poor, simple people are feeling the wrong things. Let us, the credentialed experts, tell you what you should be feeling.
And that tone, that's the unctuous tone we talked about.
Exactly. It's that fake, sincere, oily condescension. You see it in the way they address the camera after an election they don't like. The host will lean in. The music gets somber.
The glasses come off. He rubs the bridge of his nose.
Hey there. Great. Hey there.
It's this incredibly presumptuous performance that assumes every single person watching feels the exact same despair that they do. It erases the millions of people who might be perfectly happy with the result, or more likely the millions who are just trying to get through their day and want a joke.
And those millions have left. They've just vanished from this ecosystem.
They're completely gone. It's a demographic cliff.
Oh, it's not like young people stopped liking comedy.
No, they're consuming more comedy than any generation in history. They're just getting it from YouTube. And when you look at who the kings of that world are, it's a perfect inversion of the late night hosts.
You take someone like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast is the total opposite of Stephen Colbert. There are no lectures. There's no moralizing. It's just pure, high-stakes, absurdist fun. I buried myself alive for 50 hours. Last person to take their hand off this Lamborghini gets to keep it. It's spectacle. It's joy.
Or Smosh, or any of the big gaming channels. It's sketch comedy, memes, unfiltered reactions. It might be messy, sometimes offensive, but it's rarely preachy.
It's also the difference between push media and pull media. Late night pushes its worldview at you on a schedule. YouTube is pull media. You actively choose what to watch, and people are not choosing to be lectured. They're choosing to watch Joe Rogan talk to a scientist for 3 hours about fungi.
Which feels more like a real weird vernacular conversation than a polished monologue.
Absolutely. And there's one person from the old guard who figured this out. The one who escaped.
Conan O'Brien?
The great exception. He got out of the Daily Network grind right before the outrage machine went into hyperdrive in 2016. He pivoted to podcasts, to travel shows. He kept the spirit of the jester alive.
He kept it silly.
He is committed to being silly. He would always rather explore the absurdity of a Finnish hot dog than the politics of a Senate bill. He never became a bitter old man because he never stopped being a goofy, curious kid. And as a result, his audience is multi-generational. Young people who would never watch CBS love Conan.
Okay, before we finish, let's talk about the danger in all this.
Yeah.
We've framed this as a problem for comedy, but it's bigger than that. We hear a lot about the Fox News bubble on the right.
The mirror image problem. For a long time, the critique from the left was that Fox News and its associated media created this closed information loop, a propaganda arm for one side.
And the great irony is that late-night comedy has now become the left-wing version of that.
It's the Foxification of mainstream entertainment. By becoming so monolithically partisan, these hosts have inadvertently become the mirror image of what they despise. They are, in effect, state TV for the Democratic establishment, and in doing so, they alienate the middle and pour gasoline on the very polarization they lament.
It creates this propaganda fatigue.
Yeah, there was this fascinating analysis by a former State Department official who used to study propaganda from dictatorships like North Korea. He said reading the transcripts was mind-numbing because it was always the same two notes. Breathless praise for the leader or relentless condemnation of the enemy. There was no room for nuance, doubt, or simple humanity.
And when all you hear is that relentless, one-note noise,
your brain just tunes it out, it becomes static, and that's the point we've reached. For millions of Americans, these shows are no longer entertainment or information, they're just noise.
So to recap this whole journey, the economic incentive trap forced the comedy writer to kill his universal joke for a niche political jab. That political jab then acts as a solvent, dissolving the sociological bonds of families like Elias's. And the whole thing is driven by a psychological narcissism that betrays the rational viewer like Elena, leaving them politically homeless.
A perfect, tragic summary. We didn't just lose some funny TV shows. We lost a national meeting place. We lost a neutral zone where we could all just be people for an hour.
We've spent the last hour looking at how the jester became the preacher. But there's a darker possibility we haven't touched on. Maybe the hosts didn't change because they got old and bitter. Maybe they changed because they realized that in a world addicted to outrage, joy is no longer a sellable asset. If laughter is the sound of surprise, and we have built a world where we refuse to be surprised by anything that challenges our worldview, then perhaps we didn't kill the talk show. We killed the joke.